lot of love. Please start clapping, start clapping, start clapping, start clapping. Beth, Holly, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I spent the bulk of my formative years in the back seat of a 1966 Plymouth Fury station wagon. My parents were both public school teachers, which meant that we didn't have a lot of money, but we did have long summer vacations. And we spent those in that station wagon, crisscrossing the continent and camping our way through the country's national parks. We took one of our most ambitious trips when we drove from New York to Montana to visit Glacier National Park. Now, Glacier is known for its jagged mountain peaks, its wildflower meadows, crystal clear glacial lakes, and abundant wildlife, bighorn sheep, elk, and bears, grizzly bears. Now, my dad, being a science teacher, made sure that my sister and I were well schooled on how to handle any potential bear encounter. He gave us bells to wear on our hiking boots so we would jingle when we walked. He lectured us incessantly on safe food storage. He taught us that if we encountered a bear, we should freeze and walk slowly backwards. And he had even given me a book for the long car ride called Night of the Grizzlies, a true harrowing story about the summer a few years earlier when two teenage girls had been pulled from their sleeping bags and mauled by bears in Glacier National Park. This was my dad's version of a Scared Straight program. And it worked. If I wasn't afraid of bears before, I was terrified of them now. And I was determined to follow his advice to the letter so that I didn't end up being next year's cautionary tale. So our first morning in Glacier National Park, I wake up to the scent of French toast and bacon cooking on the camp stove. I crawl out of my tent and join my family at the picnic table, and my dad is laying out the plan for the day. A 15-mile ridgeline hike on the famous Highline Trail, the very trail on which those girls were pulled from their sleeping bags and mauled. And my dad then goes on to say, oh, and by the way, bears were seen in the campground last night. They were lurking around the garbage shed. So make sure to clean everything up at the campsite before we leave for the day. My bear antennae are pinging. I am nervous, afraid, ready for this. We clear up the campsite, we get in the car, we're driving through the campground, and as we near the exit, my dad pulls over to the side of the road and points to a little aluminum shed about 20 feet off the road. He says, okay, Beth, out you go. And he hands me this bag of garbage. Now, this bag of garbage contains coffee grounds, eggshells, bacon grease. You know, it's basically bear bait. And I step out of the car holding this garbage bag. My heart is pounding. My hands are sweating. I'm looking around to see if there's any bears. About halfway to the shed, I turn back to look at my family one more time. I get to the shed. I look around. I don't see it. It looks like the coast is clear. I reach out my hand. I turn the handle on the shed. I open it a bit, and I hear the most deafening roar. I immediately forget all of my training. I dropped that bag of garbage, I turned my back on that bear, and I sprinted as fast as I could back to the safety of the station wagon. I get in the car, I slam the door behind me, expecting my dad to peel out, gravel flying, but all I hear is laughter. My family is laughing at me because there had been no bear. There had been my dad, who thought it would be funny to roar just as I opened that shed. And his voice ricocheted across those metal walls, giving me the terror of my life. Now, as penance for his crime, my dad got out of the car, picked up the abandoned garbage, and deposited it safely in the shed. He walked back to the car, got in, leaned over the front seat, looked at me, and said, You okay? Now, I knew what was expected of me. I would go along with the family joke. But what I really wanted to say was roar! Thank you.
Get up for Beth Holly.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.